Hey, Nader, it's James West. How are you?
I'm doing great, James. Nice seeing you. Good morning and good
Nice
afternoon.
yes, nice to see you as well. Well, good morning to everyone else, and welcome to episode 80 of the James West podcast series with Kiana Analytics, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder Nader Fathi. I'm James West, and I run the oilfield services, equipment, and drilling and sustainable technologies and clean energy teams for EVERCORE ISI. Kiana Analytics powers the connected workplace to drive productivity, security, and safety at the front line. The company's industrial Internet of Things platform is a sensor-agnostic, real-time location services platform provider leveraging existing Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, ultra-wideband security camera infrastructure to digitalize workforce, workplaces, and workflows. Kiana's platform is cloud-based, scalable, modular, and secure. These modules include security management, asset and visitor management, emergency evacuation and e-mustering, health exposure analytics, site and facility management, and digital workflow. Kiana focuses on intelligence layers that connect digital transformation to results. Customers using Kiana can achieve tangible and proven value in days, increasing speed to action, insight, and reactions, driving traceability, accountability, and quality, controlling and reducing operational risk. And the technology was designed from the ground up with privacy protection in mind. Use cases in oil and gas and energy and factories include emergency evacuation and mustering, man down lone worker detection, asset management, contractor management and billing, turnaround maintenance, sustainable energy management, suspicious device detection, and physical security. The company's been granted 7 patents by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and has preceded over 750 million devices so far deployed worldwide. The company is venture-backed, a U.S. Department of Homeland Security Silicon Valley Innovation Program portfolio company, and has been highlighted by many industry-leading publications and accelerators. The company was named the hottest company in July 2016 by the world's largest startup accelerator, which is Plug and Play Tech Center, and named the top innovator in 2018 by Telecom Council. Kiana was founded in 2013 by a group of seasoned data scientists and networking experts. It is a fast-growing GDPR-compliant company with offices in Silicon Valley, Singapore, and Germany. Nader is a serial entrepreneur and a veteran of the big data industry. He was the founder and CEO of SigmaQuest, which was acquired by Camstar Siemens. Nader served as CEO of Infrastage and is a current advisory board member at USC's Viterbi, Computer Science Department, and a board member at the Asian American Multi-Technology Association. He also serves as an executive in residence at Plug and Play Tech Center in Silicon Valley. So Nader, that was a long-winded intro, I know, but thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
So maybe first, could you just tell us how Kiana Analytics started and give us the high-level pitch for the company?
Sure. So we are serial entrepreneurs, and then our last company was actually, as you mentioned correctly, by Siemens. And then we had a call from a Wi-Fi manufacturer, and they called us and they said, hey, we have a lot of dark data. Can you guys help us? And we never heard of a term dark data. What is the dark data?
Sure.
They told us that, hey, we as a society, as we move around with anything Wi-Fi enabled, which could be your phone, your laptop, your Apple Watch or whatnot, you're sending a lot of signals. So this company was interested to grab this data, and their initial interest was on what they call customer's journey. They wanted to see in a mall, how do people travel? How do they go from one location to another location and so on? So that is how we started Kiana with that concept. And since then, it has grown to, as you see, we focus now on oil and gas, manufacturing, as well as energy segments.
Sure. So could you maybe highlight the industrial IoT platform and technology? And I know you just mentioned oil and gas and energy as key operating industries, but are there others that we should be aware of?
Sure. So first of all, let me talk a little bit about why industrial IoT and why that has become such a hot topic, also known, as you know, as digitalization. We also hear Industry 4.0. These are different terms that we use. I think oil and gas factories and energy, they realize that they can do more with basically using the latest technology of the sensors. So basically, industrial IoT is connecting different sensors together, making sense out of it, and then analyze it, really getting to the action quickly. This helps them to, number one, make sure the environment is safe, it's secure, but also help to optimize the workforce so they can reduce the non-productivity time. That's really the promise of IoT. Now, this is a good news. The bad news on industrial IoT, there was a study done, James, by McKinsey, which says, you know what, 84% of industrial IoT projects are stuck in a pilot. And when you ask why, I think the big issue is capital equipment. People don't want to go buy all sorts of sensors and install it. They want to use existing sensors that they have. They want to be able to tie this into business results, and they want to make sure the project doesn't take years. They can do this in a matter of weeks or months. And that's really where Kiana comes in with our industrial IoT hub, we call it, or platform for that matter.
Right. Okay, makes sense. And then maybe could we dig in a bit more to the technology itself, how it's deployed, where some of the places this has been deployed. I know you have a short video. Maybe we can look at that for a minute.
Sure. Let's look at the video, and I will talk about it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Please let me know when you see it. Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, great. So again, a little bit overview. So again, as I mentioned, what we do is that we have created an IoT hub, Internet of Things hub platform, which really allows us to improve employee and asset productivity, safety, and security in an industrial work environment. Again, remember, workers are connected. So what we have, James, is we have built this platform, which is cloud-based, scalable, and secure, which is a really software platform, and it's cloud-based. Now, what we have done for the last 9 years is that we have integrated with the top sensors out there. For example, in the case of Wi-Fi, we are partners with Cisco. We are partners with Extreme Networks, with HP Aruba, with Ruckus, and so on. Again, it's not easy to integrate with all those, but we have. We also integrated with Bluetooth. We can bring in images from cameras. We work with smart power plugs from Eaton, from Net.io. Again, this is very important for sustainability and power analysis. Also for oil and gas, ultra wideband is important. So this comes to our platform. On the top, you see different modules. So customers may come to us because they're interested on emergency evacuation or asset or visitor management or security. Last couple of years, again, when COVID was hot, we did a lot of work around exposure analysis, site management, and workflow. And really, those are the different modules, a scalable solution. So really, at the end of the day, what the customers are interested to do is to reduce their operational risk. That's the reason they come to us. With that, if we can now, let's go ahead and dive actually to the demo itself, what we call the expert platform. And what I'm going to show you is, first of all, you see the dashboard. So there is a safety module, there's a health module, IT, security, and so on. And in this example, I'm going to talk about mustering, also electrical mustering. How do I set the emergency evacuation? How do I define my zones? Who are the people to muster to? And so on and so forth, and be able to actually manage it. The start and end of mustering, location, and also there's a management dashboard. So what you see in the next few screenshots here is that, hey, I can go ahead and start the mustering process, as you see here. So what happens next? Then it says, okay, let's have 2 areas, working place 2, and then I can go ahead and assign another area, and then basically go ahead and start seeing the people that I wanted to muster to. One thing I want to talk about here has to do with privacy. Here you see examples of names and phone numbers. We never see those. This is, again, within the customer's 4-wall, and that's part of the privacy there. So again, as you can see, they can go ahead and specify if somebody needs help, where they are, and so on. So again, you can see that we're going through the mustering process here. And then you will see shortly the zones itself. Where are the people? So again, I am assigning, who is the first responder or who needs help, where they are, and so on. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you very quickly here is actually the locator. And this is what's called the RTLS, real-time location. So you can see exactly where people are. Are they in the entrance? Are they, which the area they are? They can even see their names. Like here's Neil with his phone number that you can contact him. Are you okay?
Mhm.
Where are you? And so on, right? So,
Right.
and as I mentioned, last but not least, there is a management dashboard at the end here. Now, one thing I want to emphasize is this chart here that we call the open Rubik cube. So there are companies, James, which look at one data point.
Hmm.
They may look at an asset. They may look at the location. What we do is really look at the combination, and this is really what the value we bring into the table. Let me give you an example. If I have a worker which is supposed to be there from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and I see him wandering around at 2 a.m. in an area which is not supposed to be, guess what? That's an outlier, right? We can raise a
Right.
flag.
Right.
Or if somebody is not allowed to drive a forklift and he's on a forklift, that's another example. And furthermore, we can see who else is next to that person. So in the case of mustering, if some is a man down situation, I wanted to see, hey, where is the closest first responder to that person, right? So being able to see
Right.
different data and getting to the root cause is really what we bring it to the table. I hope this was useful.
No, definitely very, very useful and really helpful in describing the technology and how it works and how you're leveraging existing sensors. So I know there are several competitors or companies out there that are advancing this technology to track assets, drive time savings, optimize processes, et cetera, similar to what your technology does. Could you talk about your competitive edge and how your technology is differentiated
Sure.
in the market?
So first of all, I wanted to say that the industrial IoT market is a huge market. Actually, the latest data says it's $260 billion market and is growing rapidly, right? So, there's going to be lots of players in this area. But again, what makes us unique is those three things that I talked about. Number one is that we are hardware agnostic. We do not sell or install any hardware. We use the existing
Right.
hardware that the customer has, and that's really a value. That's number one. Number two is the quick time to value. Again, going back to the McKinsey study, if this, pilots take 6 to 8 months, people just forget it, right? So how do
Sure.
I do this quickly? And then last but not least is our seamless integration, right? Again, this data is already in the factory, in the oil and gas environment and so on. What we do, we just digest this data and we make sense out of it. I think that's really what the differentiation between us and some of the companies that you mentioned.
Okay, got it. So you're collecting, a vast amount of data, which then, of course, poses risks for potential data breaches and,
Sure.
identity theft, things like that. How does your technology interact with visitors and employees? How do you protect customers' personal identifiable information? What kind of data does your technology collect? How are you protecting user data from the public and mitigating risk?
Sure. So first of all, the cloud that we're using is called GCP, which is the Google Cloud Platform.
Hmm.
And by the way, because we work across the globe, we have different instances, like for example, in US, in Europe, in Singapore, in Switzerland, and so on. So that's number one. Number two is that all the data which comes to us, James, as I mentioned, is encrypted. So we never see the real data. So at the minimum, we have 4 set of data which comes to us. Number one is the device ID, which is called the MAC ID, which is basically encrypted. The second one, we know the location of those sensors. We know the latitude and longitude of those locations. We know basically the timestamp. So we know it happened at 10:05 a.m. And then last but not least is what we call RSSI. RSSI is a radio signal strength, which is the distance of your device to the access point in the building. Based on that and based on the patented technology that we have, we accurately locate the movement of these devices. Now, half of my team is in Germany. And as you know, both German and Swiss are very concerned about privacy, GDPR, if you're familiar. So we are GDPR compliant. We have done this before GDPR became a household name. And then furthermore, in California, we also have CCPA. So every data that we have, it's private. We never see the personal identifying information. We just crunch a bunch of numbers. So that's how we deal with security and privacy of the data.
Okay, makes sense. And your customers here, whether it's oil and gas, energy companies, building operators, factories, they're focused on improving efficiencies, reducing expenses, and we do expect customer adoption will rapidly accelerate and has been accelerated for several years. What's your view on the market and how it will evolve over time? How is technological innovation revolutionizing the industry?
So I think that, again, as I mentioned, we see two shifts. The number one shift is that in the case of factories, we see a lot of factories are moving to different areas. Like, for example, Apple is building now the latest iPhone in India, for that matter, right? And so companies are saying, wow, how can I do more with the existing people that I have, but faster, better, cheaper, safer, right? So you're going to see more and more sensors are playing a big role there. The other thing which is really important is this aggregation platform, sensor agnostic, as I mentioned, but safety, security, and productivity becomes a big issue for them. And how do I really optimize my resources? So those are really the big issues that companies are facing, and that's the reason they're relying on technology like us to get to the root cause of the issues pretty rapidly. So, and I think the biggest use case we have in the oil and gas has to do with safety, right? A man down is an example of that. If somebody, God forbid, is passed out, who is the closest first responder to it? Also, protection of assets, people, and IP become an issue. We are working with a very large semiconductor company, which they are very much interested in what they call cyber physical security. Is the right person at the right location, right? If I'm building, equipment for company A, I don't want company B come and look at what we are doing over here. So make sure we keep the people at the right places that they belong to. So those are examples of how we have been helping companies there.
Sure. Makes sense. So maybe let's shift gears for a second here. We have seen a lot of partnerships being announced in the market to scale businesses, to deploy technologies. Could you tell us about any recent partnerships you have and your go-to-market strategy, and how do you plan on expanding your sales channel?
Sure. So first of all, I will put partnership in three different buckets. Number one, they are hardware sensor manufacturers that we partner with. I did mention HP Aruba, Cisco, Extreme, and so on. So those are examples of the partners that basically it's a win-win for both of us, right? So because we make their equipment smarter, right? And then customers like what we do, they may end up buying more sensors based on our solution, right? So that's number one. The second one is telcos. Like, for example, in Canada, we're working with Bell Canada, Rogers. In Switzerland, we have worked with Swisscom and so on and so forth. And telcos, they like what we do because they provide the infrastructure, but customer says, okay, great, infrastructure is wonderful. What else can I do with this data? And that's where we're coming, right? And then last but not least, there are software companies that they may value in what we are doing. So again, this whole ecosystem, it's win-win for all of us, right? Again, the more data comes to us, the more value we can provide to the customer. That's really the type of partnership that we are working on. And last year, for example, we worked with Verizon around 5G for the first responders. There was a lot of interest on that. And now we see 5G is becoming very hot when it comes to private 5G for factories. We're working with a group in Japan, for example, which are interested in private 5G.
Right. Okay. Well, so I know you're in Europe, you're in North America. You mentioned Singapore. Are there other potential geographies that you're looking at, and how does the market competition in newer regions differ compared to the U.S. and Europe? And are you seeing any bottlenecks in the market right now?
So again, our focus has been, as you mentioned correctly, North America and Europe, but we now have customers in Singapore. We are actively talking to companies in Japan, very much interested in this technology. And last but not least, Middle East is a new area for us. We are in discussion in Kuwait. We have a partner now in Egypt. And we see a lot of interest in those areas. But said that at the same time, James, we live in a global environment, right? So companies we work with are all multinationals. They are not only in one location, they're really global.
Yeah,
right?
Fair enough.
And the beauty of our solution is that we can really grab data from disparate systems, disparate locations, bring it again to our hub and really make sense out of it. And customers like that a lot. And by the way, one other thing I wanted to say is that the beauty of our solution is that this is all done remotely. The fact that we don't install any hardware or software in customer environment, they can do this all remotely via web, which is really the power of the solution here.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, last question for me, Nader. What are the key milestones we should be watching for in 2023 and next year?
So we are very excited about the work we are doing with oil and gas and energy. We did some really interesting project recently with electric power plants as well, and really pushing on sustainability. So I think the next 2 years, the focus again is that how do we really help the whole industry to really make this whole promise of Industry 4.0, industrial IoT, a
Sure.
reality. So that is our focus. Is on the technology side, we will continue using machine learning, AI, and so on to be able to automatically identify issues, look for outliers, and flag those. I mean, this is where computers are really good at, right? And we will continue expanding. I mean, we are, as you mentioned, we are in North America, Singapore, Europe, but now we're in discussion in other regions as well. So we will have more footprint as we grow and as we move on in the next couple of years.
Well, great. Well, congratulations on your success. We look forward to watching as you guys grow. And thanks for joining me today. Thanks for sharing your time. And I'm sure our listeners will appreciate it. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, James, for the time and for your interest. You have a wonderful day.
Of course. You too. Thanks, Nader.